Welcome to another tech tips video. In this video, I'm going to show you how not to use ChatGPT-like technology for legal. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about how you potentially can. Now, in my videos, I'm always as objective as possible without any bias. In this video, may not be so. I will show you very quickly a project that I've been working on at work. So just keep that in mind. But again, I'll try to give you all the information as objective as possible with as little bias as I possibly can. So with that in mind, let's jump to my computer screen and let's take a look at this nice RSMF file. So what we're looking at here is a chat conversation between multiple people who are talking about whatever it is that people are talking about. But let's say I'm a super busy attorney. I don't want to read all this. This looks like too much. And real world, of course, the conversations will be longer. So what I might be tempted to do is to click on this Bing toolbar and say, summarize content of the web page I'm currently browsing. And I press enter. And what do you know? It's going to generate a response about this particular conversation. So it's going to give me a short version of what these people are talking about, and we can kind of read that. Basically, it seems like conversations between three people and so on. And so now all I have to do, just read this, and I don't have to read all that. And again, in the real world, the document you might be seeing is way longer or use more complicated language. So what I just did is I had Bing do all the hard work for me. It took the document, it interpreted it to easier to understand language, and I just have to read that and not the actual document. Easy, right? Well, not so. This is a legal document, and in legal technology, we have to be careful where our data goes out to. There is a reason why we don't use tools like Google Translate. It's very tempting to just take a chunk of text, paste it into Google, and receive a translation. But we don't do it because we don't know where the data is going, where it'll wind up, if there is anything confidential in that data. Well, same applies here. We just took all this data and we sent it, we don't know where. We sent it to Bing to analyze, read, and we don't know what they're going to be doing with this data. Will they incorporate that into their model? Will they store it for future evaluation? Likely all of the above. We can't probably find terms of use of it and read it, but I can pretty much tell you that this is the worst way of using ChatGPT. In fact, no one should be doing it this way, regardless what it says in their terms and conditions. Can we do better? Let's talk about that. So one other thing we can do is we can integrate ChatGPT-like technology using API calls to some of these services. One of them, of course, is the ChatGPT itself, the OpenAI. Now, if you use how ChatGPT uses your data through API calls, which is different from web interface, it says that they do retain your queries for 30 days. And they do that for quality assurance, right? They make sure you don't abuse the system, you're not using it to generate some kind of evil content or anything like that. And then they delete it. So it kind of seems like this would be okay to use, except that ChatGPT just recently had a security issue where people were able to see other people's queries. So doing this is probably going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. So if we don't really want to do that, what else can we do? Well, we can use Microsoft Azure. And Microsoft Azure also has the same kind of policy. They retain data for 30 days to monitor for content and behavior that suggests use of service in a manner that violates applicable product terms. So again, the data is being stored by somebody else. Now, I would feel much better about Azure holding my data for 30 days than OpenAI, mostly because OpenAI just had a security issue, and Microsoft's been pretty good at this as far as I know. So if I were to use some kind of cloud service, I would try to go with Microsoft Azure and use API call and send requests there. The only issue I have with Azure is, number one, it's really hard to get an account. I know some people who try to sign up for it and they're still waiting. And number two, it is pretty expensive, right? Depends on the model you pick. At least at this time, it is a fairly expensive service. So here is what we did at work, and this is the bias part, and I want to share with you. So if I go back to Relativity, I'll show you what we decided to do is to bring ChatGPT in-house, bring it behind our firewall, right? So the same network that hosts Relativity environment is also holding a copy of ChatGPT-like server. The way you can interact with that is there is a button here, and you could say, all right, we got our assistant, and we can say create summary of a document. You can hit the button send, and now it's going to send a request and return basically the same summary as Bing or anyone else would generate. So again, discuss environmental impact of solar energy, this and that. So we are doing same thing that we used with the Bing toolbar, but the difference is we're not sending data anywhere outside. This server resides inside the network. Data does not go anywhere else. It is not being used to train the model, isn't being used for anything. The only thing that gets saved is actually this summary. So if we were to close this and switch to document summary view, now we have this summary saved for later use. And if we switch to a different view over here, we could see we have all these documents with their summary saved. So potentially we could, if we want to be really lazy, we can read through these summaries to know what this conversation is about. I don't know how it works from the proper review procedures. This may be taking too many shortcuts, but I'm not going to speak on that. Point is, we were able to create summary of a document without sending it out to any third-party ChatGPT servers. All the data stayed on the same network that hosts Relativity environment. So what's the takeaway from this tip? Well, first of all, don't use Bing toolbar to analyze your documents, and don't copy and paste content of your documents into ChatGPT, Google Translate, or other services that send your data somewhere else and you don't know what's going to happen. Best thing to do, bring those services in-house, inside your network, so you have full control over it. And if you can't, sign up with the most reputable provider you can, which in my case, I would say is probably Microsoft Azure. That's it. That's all I have for this tip. If you have anything to add to this, put it in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another video.